My dad introduced me to his new girlfriend, and she looked me up and down before asking, "Wait, how old are you?" 26, I said. She blinked. "Oh, I'm 23. Dad smiled like this was perfectly normal, but we were literally standing outside the steakhouse our whole family used to go to every week before he cheated on my mom. "Should we go in?" he said, like we hadn't just established his girlfriend was 3 years younger than me. Inside, Becky was on her phone before we even sat down. "I'm starving," she said. I watched Dad rest his hand on her thigh the second we sat down, watched him order for both of them like she couldn't read a menu. The waiter looked uncomfortable. The elderly couple 2 tables over definitely was, and Dad kept glancing around the restaurant, making sure people saw them together. When he caught someone's eye, his hand would slide higher on Becky's leg, like he needed everyone to know she wasn't his other daughter. "So Becky's in grad school," Dad announced, loud enough for half the room, "getting her master's in communications." "That's great," I said, watching Becky scroll through Instagram while he talked about her. Dad ordered a $200 bottle of wine and made a show of letting Becky taste it first. She said, "It's good," without looking up from her phone. He beamed like she just solved world hunger. Over the next few months, it got worse. Dad started showing up at Mom's coffee shop every Tuesday morning with Becky, even though he lived 20 minutes in the opposite direction. Mom went there every week for her book club. I only found out when Mom called me crying on the 3rd Tuesday, asking why he was doing this. When I called him out, he shrugged. "It's a public place." I tried to give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he was just going through a midlife crisis and didn't realize how it looked. But then at my cousin's wedding, he introduced Becky to every relative as his better half while Mom sat alone at our table. That's when I knew it was malicious. He spent most of the reception with his golf buddies at the bar, and I could hear them from where I was sitting. They were making comments about trading up and asking if Becky had any single friends, loud enough that Mom definitely heard too. Dad just laughed along. I ignored his calls for weeks until one morning I received a text that said emergency, and I called him immediately. "Sweetie, I'm throwing Becky a birthday celebration," he said, practically vibrating. "Big one, garden party at the house, live DJ, the whole thing. You have to come." "Dad, her sorority sisters are flying in from state, and I've invited everyone from the firm. It's going to be incredible." The mental image formed immediately. My dad's 50-something business partners in polo shirts, trying to network with Becky's 20-something sorority sisters, and that's when I had an idea. Wouldn't miss it, I said. I hung up and opened my phone, changed my Tinder age range to 60 to 70. If Dad could date someone who just graduated college, I could date someone already retired. 3 days and 40 profiles later, I matched with Joe. Silver hair, kind eyes, impeccable style in his photos. Recently divorced, 62 years old, 5 years ahead of Dad. We met for coffee at a place where nobody knew my father. "So, you need a date to prove a point," Joe said, amused. "I need you to help me show my dad exactly what he looks like." By the end of our planning, he was in tears. "I'm in," he said. "But just so we're clear, don't go falling for me during all this. Last thing I need is to end up looking like your pops." Saturday came. The party was exactly what I pictured. White tent in the backyard, catered appetizers, a DJ playing top 40 remixes. Becky's sorority sisters clustered near the bar in matching pastel sundresses while Dad's business partners circled with whiskey. I showed up alone, played the dutiful daughter for exactly 30 minutes, complimented the flowers, made small talk, took a photo for Becky's Instagram, then I excused myself to pick up my date. When I walked back in with Joe, conversation stopped mid-sentence. I watched heads turn across the tent. Dad was at the main table with his golf foursome. Becky draped across his lap in a pink dress, laughing at something one of them said. "Dad, everyone," I said brightly, "this is Joe." Dad's mouth fell open. Joe and I found seats at a nearby table, and I sat down on his lap, making sure Dad had a perfect view. The silence was beautiful. Even Becky looked at us confused, as if this wasn't exactly the kind of relationship she has. Then one of Dad's golf buddies stood up. "Wait, Joe Morrison? We play every Thursday at the club." Dad practically shoved Becky off his lap, standing up. "Sweetie, can we talk privately? This is inappropriate." "Inappropriate?" I said, like showing up at Mom's coffee shop every Tuesday. His face went red. "That's completely different. We're not staying long," I announced, cutting him off. "Joe's taking me on a private sunset cruise. His boat's docked at the marina, but we took our time." For the next hour, Joe and I sat there talking about his time in Vietnam while Dad paced around the tent, visibly spiraling. I'd never seen him so uncomfortable in my life. When we finally left, Joe was grinning ear to ear. I haven't had that much fun in years. 3 days later, Dad was still calling. As one final blow, I texted back, "By the way, what erectile dysfunction medication do you use? Joe's been having trouble keeping it up."